Hello everyone and welcome to Science Lab. The signs are happening because Jesus is coming. Every day we're looking at some of the signs that are happening around us, and today we're going to look at some of the end time signs happening in Europe. German laser and hypersonic weapons will soon become a reality. Germany is quietly racing for the next generation of weapons, and its advantage lies in its secrecy.
In December 2018, Russia shocked the world with a successful test of its avant-garde hypersonic missile system. While the United States, Russia and China are racing for new weapon technologies, Germany is racing too. But much more quietly, it is that secrecy along with Germany's history that should greatly alarm the world.
On the 7th of June 2019, the German newspaper Die Welt reported that the German military is developing hypersonic weapons that hit their target at 5 times the speed of sound. The German Federal Armed Forces Procurement Agency started the project last year as sales manager Peter Hallmeier of the German defense company MBDA announced. MBDA is Europe's leader in developing missile systems.
Hallmeier said that developing hypersonic weapons is necessary due to threats of the concrete kind, keyword Putin's missile, of even the new Russia tank. The simple principle is to develop missiles that are so fast that projectile system of the Russian tank becomes too slow.
The first test firings of the missiles are estimated to take place within the next 3 years. In the meantime, Hallmeier sees the possibility of integrating hypersonic missiles into air defense systems and possibly creating a European hypersonic interception missile. There aren't many details available on the secret project, but it is run on the for German eyes only principle.
Die Welt reported that in its hypersonic plans, the German subsidiary of European MBDA Group can fall back on the wealth of experience of its subsidiary Bayern Chemie. As early as 2003, the expert for guided missile propulsion had a record flight at 7 times the speed of sound on ground level.
MBDA Germany and Rheinmetall have worked for years on the development of laser weapons. In February of 2019, Rheinmetall successfully tested a new laser weapon station. MBDA Germany and Rheinmetall are now also developing laser cannons for the German military. The first high-energy laser will be installed next year on a German warship. In cooperation with France, Germany is already leading the race in developing the next generation of tanks and a future combat air system.
Hallmeier claims that the technologies are being studied for purely defensive purposes, but Germany's history means that we should pay attention when it develops advanced weapons. After World War I, people paid little attention to German weapons development, but one man in Britain sounded the alarm about Germany's deceptive tactics and advancements in developing military technology.
Concerning Germany's growing air power, Winston Churchill said in a speech that so far I've dealt with what I believe is the known, but beyond the known there is also the unknown. We hear from all sides of an air development in Germany far in excess of anything which I have stated today. As to that, all I would say is beware, Germany is a country fertile in military surprises. What Churchill didn't know was that Germany's rise to power was prophesied in the Bible. In Revelation chapter 17 verse 10, it reads, "And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen and 1 is, and the other one is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space." The 1 is refers to Adolf Hitler's Third Reich.
Germany is not just militarizing in response to Vladimir Putin's. It has planned this for a long time. From the very start of the World War II, the Germans have considered the possibility of losing the second round as they did the first, and they have carefully, methodically planned, in such eventuality, the World War III.
The Bible warns specifically about Germany's deceptiveness. The book of Nahum is directed at the descendants of ancient Assyria, the modern Germans. Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. Its victim never departs. The noise of a whip and the noise of rattling wheels, of galloping horses, of clattering chariots, horsemen charged with bright sword and glittering spear. There is a multitude of slain, a great number of bodies, countless corpses. They stumble over the corpses.
Historically, the prophet Nahum was describing the ancient Assyrian capital city of Nineveh. But anyone who has seen documentaries of the German concentration camps of World War II would agree that this description also accurately describes modern Germany.
The weapons industry that enabled Hitler is again rising to win the arms race. Most nations boast about their military developments out of vanity or strategy, but Germany keeps them secret, especially after starting 2 world wars.
No other nation has a history of starting wars like Germany. It fought the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 71 and thus became a unified nation. The unified German Empire was involved in 11 more conflicts between 1871 and the start of World War I. But today, Germany is mostly remembered for starting World War II, as all other military endeavors fade in comparison. Bible prophecy says that it will be the same in the end time. So far, we have seen about the rise of Germany. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back after a short break. Welcome back to Science Lab. The signs are happening because Jesus is coming. Before the break, we saw about the rise of Germany. Now let's continue to see the past, present, and future of Germany. Meanwhile, Winston Churchill continued to study German history. Based on what he had learned, he watched. He sought out intelligence reports and he was alarmed. In 1936, he commented on the discovery of massive numbers of trained German pilots. He knew surprise was their heritage, sewn into the fabric of their military thinking. Clearly, a parallel exists with the Leopard tanks of today. The world didn't know the Leopards still existed by the thousands in the Bundeswehr until disclosed in public relations gaffe.
Churchill, virtually alone, bravely won throughout the 1930s. Parliament did not heed, nor did the public. The Second World War commenced in September 1939 with Germany way ahead in war preparations. In Poland, the German High Command unleashed a tactical and operational system for mechanized warfare. It had quietly war-gamed, theorized, and refined. Soon, journalists began calling it Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Surprise, as achieved by the Germans in 1940, was calculated to create a condition of psychological shock and disorganization in enemy forces.
The degree of coordination between the German air and ground forces were never seen before in war. They also concentrated their tanks and, as if layering on shocks, chose the most counterintuitive point of attack. There they ruptured the enemy front and then raced out into open country dozens, even hundreds of miles, encircling reserves, cutting supplies, and threatening strategic objectives, destroying their enemies' confidence and will. The Western Allies in early May 1940 thought that the fight would be static, along the lines of the World War I. Incredibly, only 5 weeks later, the Low Countries were overrun. France was suing for peace and the British Army was fleeing the continent for its life. The British, after celebrating the truly miraculous evacuation of its army from Dunkirk in June 1940, wake up to face an alarming shortfall in military aircraft and trained pilots, as compared with the Germans, essential to stopping a seaborne invasion. Within days, Britain's survival would come down to a mere 600 Hurricane, and Spitfire fighters, paying the price in the currency of heroism for the nation's failure to heed their watchman, Churchill. Civilians, meanwhile, faced months of aerial bombing. The German High Command unleashed more surprises. A year later, it was Soviet Union's turn to be target. This time, as with Armenians, it sprang from diplomacy and deceit. Hitler had signed a non-aggression pact with Stalin. They had divided up Eastern Europe between them. Nevertheless, in the morning of June 22, 1941, German infantry stormed across the border to begin Operation Barbarossa. In just 4 months, German forward units could see the spires of Moscow. It had been reported that despite warnings from a variety of sources, Stalin was so taken by surprise, so psychologically shaken, that as the tank rolled, they remained in a state of catatonic shock, unable to act or speak for days. The war turned against Germany, but the Germans continued dipping into a bag of the unexpected. One quiet day in June 1944, London residents heard the sound of a single low-flying plane. It was the V-1, a pilotless plane. The second blaze was on. Worse, the Germans had virtually invented modern rocketry in hidden labs and air bases. Soon, the far deadlier V-2s were raining down. To Londoners, it was a terrifying jolt. Meanwhile, over the skies of Germany in the late 1944, German pilots manned the first world jet, Messerschmitt Me-262's flabbergasting Allied pilots. Analysts have argued that these superior jets, had they arrived several months earlier in numbers, could have changed the outcome of the war. With the Allies poised to the end of the war, one more tunnel loomed in the snowy forest of Belgium. In December 1944, the Germans secretly massed several mechanized divisions no one realized they had, and under cover of snowstorms abruptly sliced through the lightly defended Ardennes towards the Allies' power hub at Antwerp, threatening a second Dunkirk.
As the war progressed conventionally, Germany was secretly pursuing nuclear weapons. Albert Einstein's famous letter to US President Franklin D. Roosevelt conveyed this, touching off US efforts to develop the bomb. The Germans had the talent and the means, but miraculously were poorly organized. The US won the race along with the war.
Currently, German air bases have hundreds of NATO nuclear bombs fitted to German aircraft, nominally under US stewardship. To assume this won't quickly change. Amid a fracturing NATO, US isolationism, a menacing Russia, a looming EU-US trade war, Iran have missiles that can strike Europe and technology to build nuclear warheads, and the myriad of deepening crises within the EU would be foolish at best.
Nobody officially deemed Germany to possess nuclear weapons, yet Bible prophecy indicates that the possessions will be proved by the use. It will be a devastating shock to many, just one more German military shock in a long line of them. In the past, the shock looked like slain legionaries, roads choked with refugees, soldiers choking on chemicals, destroyed cities, concentration camp, and nations enslaved. This time it will be that bad and much, much worse. Scripture is famously, uncannily, and troublingly accurate in describing end-time nuclear warfare and its effect. A prophecy in Daniel chapter 11 verse 40 shows that a German-led European empire will overrun an Iranian-led power bloc. Daniel describes a whirlwind assault with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. Today, German liberals talk of peace and humanitarianism, but God identifies Germany as Assyria anciently and prophetically and says, O Assyrian, he meant not so, neither doth his heart think so. but it is his heart to destroy and cut off nations, not a few.
On the 11th of March 2019, the Bundeswehr's General Inspector announced that weapons development would be classified. The federal legislature and the public will be kept in the dark as post-war transparency is cast aside.
All these show that what is mentioned in the Bible that are going to take place in the end times are taking place in our lifetime. We are living in the last days. Lord Jesus Christ is coming again very soon. Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to tune in to Science Lab next time.
Before we end the show, we would like to ask you a question. Currently, which country is facing trade war with the United States? The three options are option A, Russia, option B, Germany, and option C, China.
If you know the correct answer, you can email to sciencelab@angeltv.org. If you have missed any of the episodes, don't worry, you can watch it again in our Science Lab YouTube page. But don't forget to like, share and comment on the video.
Ask your friends and relatives to watch the Science Lab so that they will know that we are living in the last days. Remember, the signs are happening because Jesus is coming. Maranatha.